Greetings and salutations, people of the internet. This is Master RBG, and today I have a very special video for you. I'm going to help you learn how to get into PC gaming. Now, most folks, when they think of PC gaming, they think of those big, super mega fancy looking gaming rigs that have more RGB, lighting, and what have you than the law probably ought to allow. And while that is certainly one way to do PC gaming, it is not the only way. In fact, you can totally make a rig that has no RGB lighting of any sort. Although that might not be your cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. Variety is the spice of life, after all. However, it should be mentioned that even though the two most commonly known ways of getting into PC gaming are not the only ways. Okay, you don't have to either build your own rig or buy a pre-made one. There is, in fact, another way. And I'm about to tell you that other way. Now, here's the thing. Unless you are hyper-focused on playing the latest games at the highest possible frame rate humanly possible and streaming that on Twitch and doing all kinds of other crazy stuff with your rig, you can actually get away with an awful lot. Because, I'll be honest, those pre-made rigs, the ones that are actually worth a darn, are usually going to be like upwards of $800. Like the cheap one is $800. Real one is going to be over $1,000. Building is going to be starting optimistically around like $1,200. But this method I'm about to tell you runs way, way less. Like, you can get this for only a little bit more than it would take to get a console. So, hear me out. What you actually need to do is, one, look up whatever games it is you plan to actually play on it. So, if you're really big into the likes of Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, whatever, look up what the actual specs for the game are. Because that's going to give you a good indicator for exactly what you actually need. And believe it or not, the recommended options aren't as crazy high-end as you might think. The likes of Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto, Minecraft, etc., they don't require an RTX 3090 to run, or a 2080, or even a 1080. Literally, you can get away with really, really bare minimum stuff if you can actually get your hands on it. So, conservatively speaking, in all likelihood, all you really need is a fairly average, middle-level, regular PC. So, something with like an Intel i3 or an i5 processor, and at least 8 gigs of RAM. The only thing you'll need much beyond that, a graphics card. It doesn't have to be the most amazing graphics card known to man. It can be a fairly basic graphics card and you'll still be sitting pretty, don't worry about it. A GTX 1030. Again, not impressive, but it'll definitely do the job. What's the other one? The RTX. It's not RTX, it's another GTX. I think it's the 750. Depending on where you are, you might be able to get hands on one of those. Or if you have a little extra cash on hand, you might be able to manage a 1650 or a 1660. Any of those are fine entry-level graphics cards that should more than hold you over until you decide to get into something really, really heavy like Call of Duty. And I mean like the latest Call of Duty, like whatever year's iteration of it is, that one. It won't cover that, but it'll get you started. Now, you might think, oh, I'm just talking out my behind. There's no way this would actually work. Well, that's where you'd be wrong. My own PC rig, if you didn't know, started its life as a regular PC. It wasn't a gaming PC by default. I had to make it one. And I did add a graphics card. And because of my desires at the time, I had to actually increase the power source on it. But, I mean, truth be told, if you actually went with the 1030 or the 750, you don't even have to probably do that. In all likelihood, that's an extra step you won't even need. Unless, again, you do get more ambitious and decide to go for more like a 1650, 1660 kind of deal. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But, again, to prove my point, I'm going to show you footage. I'm going to show you footage of games played on my PC before adding the graphics card and after adding the graphics card. In fact, I'm going to try and do a split screen setup here. I've never actually done this before, so bear with me a moment. Okay, so the left-hand side of the screen is before I got the graphics card, and the right-hand side of the screen is after I got the graphics card. Everything else is constant. Both of these instances, we're using an i5 processor. Both of these instances, we're using 12 gigs of RAM. Well, at least the base 12 gigs of RAM the PC had. The only difference is right-hand side has a GTX 1060 graphics card involved. Everything else is constant. And you can see there is a huge difference. I mean, among other things, the lighting is vastly improved on the right-hand side versus the left. Because you can kind of see the screen going haywire when your little robot buddy was swimming alongside you. Because the little flash of his light would basically make the whole screen basically turn white. But the frame rate is infinitely smoother on the right-hand side, which, believe me, it's noticeable. It's noticeable when you're playing. It really is. I couldn't even imagine trying to play something like Fortnite on the left-hand side, because that would have been so bad. Wait a sec, I think I played another game like that on there at some point. Overwatch? Yeah, I think I tried Overwatch before I got the graphics card. I mean, technically it worked, but barely. I don't know, I'll show you what I mean as far as what a AAA game looks like running with and without a graphics card in a minute. But this one is Abzu. So you're getting a little preview of what an indie game looks like, optimized versus not so much so. And again, that is a big difference for literally only adding a graphics card and nothing else. That is a huge difference. But okay, we're about to shift over to a AAA game, so hold on. Okay, so here we have footage from Dead Rising 4. And once again, before adding the graphics card, footage is on the left. After adding the graphics card is on the right. And good lord, is the difference extremely pronounced here. Like, not just in how much smoother the frame rate is, but even combat itself. And this really is a much, much better use of the graphics card here, because if nothing else, look at all the intricate blood splatters and everything that's, you know, actually visualized on the right, but because on the left it can't really handle that much, it doesn't show nearly as much. It is, wow, like night and day on this. And again, I realize it's because it's a lot of different AIs on screen all at once, a bunch of independently moving characters that honestly are a lot more intricate than, say, the fish from Abzu, which are pre-programmed to move as a group. At least, the different schools of them anyway. Believe me, there is a world of difference between 24 fish in Abzu and like a couple zombies here. But it is super noticeable, and that is just crazy, to be perfectly honest. Well, I hope my visual aids helped a few of you see the benefits of my method of starting into PC gaming. While a dedicated rig is nice, you can just as easily, if not more so, start with just your current home computer and the addition of a graphics card. Honestly, it's the second easiest PC component to install, second only to RAM. And honestly, if you already own a decent home computer and plan to make it into your gaming rig, you might as well add some RAM while you're at it. my PC was only able to run things like Dead Rising 4 before the graphics card because it had so much RAM to start off with. And honestly, that was doing most of the heavy lifting. If you don't already own a reasonable home PC, then you should be able to find one for around $500 to $600, depending on if it has an i3 or an i5 processor, or their AMD equivalents of Ryzen 3 and Ryzen 5, and of course how much RAM they have. Again, shoot for at least 8, and always remember, you can always add more on your own. Oh, and don't try this stuff with an all-in-one PC since they tend not to be very upgrade-friendly. Anywho, that's all the time we got for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it for you. If you'd like to see more of my nonsense in the future, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to be the first in your block to be notified the moment I post any new content here on YouTube, hit that notification bell. And if you'd like some suggestions for other videos made by yours truly, then how about these? Over here, you can check out my not very serious review for the KF console. Yes, it's a game console made by KFC. And yes, it's real. It's not a joke or a prank. Or you can check out over here my Cheapskate Gamer Challenge number 5. If you want a really good reason to get into PC gaming, that might give you some reason to understand why you'd want to get into it. Games that cheap? Yes, please. Don't mind if I do. Anywho, pick either one, they're both fantastic, just like you guys have been. Until next time, this is Master RBG, signing off.